Hello, this is J.R. Bjornson, and in today's episode of the Midday Show hosted by J.R. Bjornson, we're going to get a little bit personal. Last week, I performed at a local pub, and I was asked to go first on stage because this particular pub was serving a few tables of customers, and the manager of the pub said, "Let JR go first. He's not going to make anybody mad. He's not going to get anybody to walk. He's JR." And that told me that I am a PG comedian. Family friendly, parental, that's me. And I started wondering, why am I this way? Why am I a PG comedian? The closest you'll ever see me get to is maybe PG-14. I'll make a few offset dirty jokes, and I do it in a way that's teenager dirty. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. But the closest, dirtiest thing I say at my show is people ask me, "You're blind. How did you become blind? How'd you get it?" And on stage, I'll say, they treat it like it's an STD, a sexually transmitted disease, right? But in reality, I was born blind. I've been blind since birth. Now, I use that word loosely. I have a little bit of vision. I can't wear prescription glasses. If my computer screen is magnified, I can see almost everything on it, but at the end of the day, my life is like one big blur. It's like blurry vision that never goes away. I can't see more than maybe 2 feet, 3 feet in front of me. So I have this joke where I'm like, well, when was the last time you did it with the lights on? I think that's how we all go blind. And that's the closest thing I get to being a dirty 18A comedian. So it's not bad. And when I was asked to go first on Monday, I knew that was not the promoter's call, because before every stand-up comedy show, we usually get what's called a lineup. And in that lineup, when you're going up, An example, I recently did a comedy competition at the same establishment, and I was number 6. So they tell you who's going first in an order, and then you just listen for your number. And you're like, oh, hey, that's me. I'm up next. Let's go. Well, back on Monday, we had an order, right? It was going to be our favorite, darkest comedian to go first. His name's Luke David Walls. Pretty awesome guy. Friendly off stage, friendly on stage, but he does a lot of colorful jokes, we can call it. He has a joke about the Holocaust. He has a joke about being a virgin at 29. And, he does a few religious jokes. He is not afraid to joke about anything. And that's why I love Luke. Luke is great, right? I love everybody in the Red Deer comedy scene. And Luke was supposed to go first. Here's why I found out, or how I found out I am a PG comedian. And we're going to get to why I think I'm a PG comedian in a minute or so, or a few minutes. And the promoter was told by the manager of the establishment, listen, I have a lot of customers right now that are eating their meals. They didn't know there was going to be a comedy show. You have to put J.R. Bjornson up first. You have to put blind guy comedy up first, because blind guy comedy ain't going to say anything that is offensive to the audience. Blind guy comedy is not going to walk any tables. In comedy, when they say walk tables, it means the jokes are so intense and people can't handle them that they literally just leave the bar, leave the establishment. So I was honored that I got to go first. At the same time, I had such a pit of guilt because I already knew the lineup. I already knew that night that I was supposed to be number 5, and I was okay with Luke and everybody else going before me because I'm just there to perform, right? I enjoy stand-up comedy so much that I'm just there to have fun, perform. I'm not there to get profits or make money. It's an open mic. You don't go to an open mic to make money. You go to an open mic to practice your stand-up comedy craft. And when I was told that my buddy Nick came up to me and said, hey, you have to go first. I'm like, what do you mean I have to go first? Because I was at the bar having my third cup of ginger ale. This was before I quit my no sugar September challenge. And I was up having some delicious ginger ale, and all of a sudden Nick comes up behind me and says, you have to get up on stage. You're going up in like 20 seconds. And I'm like, why am I going up in 20 seconds? Then Nick told me that the manager of the bar wants me to go first because I'm guaranteed to not walk any tables. I'm guaranteed that people are going to stay and enjoy my comedy because I never push the envelope. Which at first I took it as an honor, right? At first I was like, hey, I get to go first? All right, let's go. Let's do this. But then after that, it bothered me for a little bit. It bothered me because, in my opinion, Luke should have went first. That was the agreed lineup. And I don't like it when plans get changed because you're not prepared when plans get changed. You know, another example of that was I did a show in Edmonton, Alberta. What do they call that? A corporate gig. I did a corporate gig, a fundraiser in Edmonton, and I was told that I was not to go on stage until 8:30 p.m. That was the agreed upon time. So at 8:10. I went to my vehicle to get suited up, right? I wanted to look good. You know, it was a fundraiser to build a new playground. I wanted to look spiffy. So I was in the van putting my suit on, that's, you know, the Blind Guy Comedy minivan, and I get a call. And it's my buddy, and he says, hey, JR, where are you? I'm like, I'm in the van. I'm getting dressed. What's up? You're on stage right now. You've been called. They've introduced you, but you're nowhere to be found. And I was like, but I'm not on till 8:30. That was the agreed. That's the deal we worked out. And then he said, well, plans change. Anyway, it turns out that the speaker before me wasn't going to take 20 minutes and only took 5 minutes. So I put on my suit real fast and went out there and made a joke that I couldn't find the venue because of, can't see where I'm going. It ended up working out. But at the same time, it goes back to the whole, I don't like it when plans change because in my mind, I can fully relax if I have the times. So flash forward a few months down the road and we're at this pub. It's open mic night. Robert tells me the lineup. It's like, okay, it's Luke, it's Nick, it's Jordan, it's me, it's you, like that. That was the agreed upon deal. And it's not so much a deal. It was more or less that's what we're doing. And I'm like, thanks, Robert, because I love it when I know when I'm going up on stage. My biggest fear is being called up on stage and I'm nowhere near the stage. And as someone who can't see, I have to find the stage. I have to find the stage and know my route. Like, I have a show coming up in Calgary on the 25th. I think it's called the Fish Bowl is where I'm performing. And on the 25th, I'm going to show up there 45 to an hour early so I can map out the place. I know where the stage is. I know where the microphone is. That's my main concern is I know where the stage, I know where the microphone, I know how to get on, I know how to get off, all that stuff. Because as someone who can't see, you have to know where your stage is. You have to be prepared because you still want to look good walking up on stage. You want to look like you actually know what you're doing. Anyway, I found out that I am a PG comedian because I was asked to go first. I was asked to go first so I wouldn't, quote, walk tables. And I was honored. But at the same time, I felt bad because Luke knew he was going to go first. He was told, hey, you're Bullet. Bullet means you're the one opening the show. So at first, I wore it as a badge of honor. Like, yeah, look at me. I got to go first, But then I felt bad. I felt bad because that was not the agreed upon decision. And I'm a PG comedian, but that was not the agreed upon decision. And I just felt wrong, So I started thinking. Like, why am I a PG comedian? Why am I a comedian that doesn't want to push boundaries? Why don't I want to tell any intense jokes that might be offensive to some viewers, to some audience members? And then I remembered a lot of it goes back to how I was raised. When I was growing up, I was around 7 years old. Around 1995, my mother started dating. She was a single parent up until then. So the first 4 or 5 years, I didn't have a dad. The closest thing I had was a stepdad. And his name was Bradley Auger. And Bradley did not know how to raise children because he never had children. He kind of just started dating a woman who had 2 kids, and Bradley had no idea what he's doing, which does not get him out of what I'm about to tell you, what he did to me. No, not at all. My recommendation is if you are a parent who doesn't have kids, and then, wait, let me rephrase that. If you're someone who doesn't have kids and you start dating someone who does have kids, in my opinion, you should have no real right on how to raise those kids because you weren't there from the beginning and you might not know what you're doing. So always go by what the mom's doing, right? And I say that because when Bradley was in my life from 1995 to 2001, I think it was, whenever I tried being naughty and whenever I tried saying even something as simple as damn it or crap, this really sucks, or oh my God, this is horrible, Bradley would pull out now this might be a little intense for people who have been through the same, so just as a heads up, be forewarned. It's nothing too extreme, but it's extreme to me. Might not be extreme to you. But whenever I said things like, oh my God, or God damn it, or this really sucks, or wow, holy crap, Bradley would pull out a bar of Irish Spring soap. Now, you know these soaps, right? They're green. They're meant for your hands. Yeah, I don't need the taste of Ireland in my mouth, right? No one should ever put soap in their children's mouths. Makes no sense. Well, whenever I felt whenever I felt moody and I tried expressing myself in the least verbal way, so, crap, God damn it, this really sucks. Screw this. Bradley would put the hand soap in my mouth. It was the worst 5 seconds of my life because I would spit it out and then immediately go wash my mouth out with water because, yeah, you don't want soap in your mouth for a prolonged period of time. He would do this about 10 to 15 times in my life from 95 to 2001. So you could imagine when my mom and him broke up. Needless to say, my mom caught him with another woman, and that ended things abruptly. So, to this day, it is hard, like ridiculously hard for me to curse on stage. It is hard for me to push the envelope of my language on the stages that I perform at because of that taste of soap. Because of, as a kid, ingesting soap. And if my mom is listening, this isn't to hurt you. This isn't to make you feel bad as a parent. This is to tell my audience why I believe that I am a clean comedian, why I am a PG comedian. And I am a PG comedian because of the way I was punished for trying to express my views and, not swearing. And the reason why I bring this up is because I felt guilty for going first that night at the pub when Luke was supposed to go first, when I knew I was the 5th comedian. And I should be proud that I might be a first choice in many clubs or venues or corporate gigs because I don't push my metaphorical envelope. I don't tell jokes that involve swearing. I don't tell jokes that are too intense because I feel like when I tell these jokes that are too intense, I feel like there's a bar of soap waiting for me after the show. Some comedians I've talked to in the past, I just tell them, "Oh yeah, I'm PG because I imagine my children are in the crowd." That's just a cover-up story. That's just a story because I don't want to tell anyone that I got soap in the mouth for trying to show my displeasure whenever I didn't get what I wanted or whenever I was feeling emotionally angry. I got in trouble for expressing my anger, and I got in trouble in the form of Irish Spring bar of soap in my mouth. I always wonder, like, can I pursue legal charges for what happened? But at the end of the day, no, I can't because it was a long time ago. And also, from what I understand, he passed away. He passed away many years ago. His diabetes got worse. And why would I never even thought of actually going after him for how he parented me as a kid because it just, I don't know. It didn't really, the memory wasn't really brought up until I was called a PG comedian, until my fellow friends in comedy, made fun of me because I got to go first because I don't walk tables. And I know why they did that, right? The comedians made fun of me for going first because they were just playfully making fun of me. Like, in comedy, a lot of your comedian brothers, comedian sisters, they make fun of you because that's how we share to each other that we love each other and we support one another. We'll make fun of each other behind the scenes. We'll make fun of each other behind in the green room, as an example. So when I went to the Friday show to perform part of the talent show, I was slightly made fun of. I was slightly mocked before the show, like, we should let JR go first, And then for a split second, I was like, yeah, you should let me go first. But then I was like, no, I'm good. It's fine. It's hilarious. Because they're just making fun of me. They're just showing some love. And excuse me. I don't know why I felt obligated to share this with everybody, but if anyone ever asks now, why am I a PG comedian? Why don't I swear as much on stage? I've sworn on stage before. Like, I'm not clean as a fiddle. Like I've cursed a few times on stage, but usually at open mics or if I've had a few drinks. It's kind of the reason why I stay away from alcohol. Alcoholism is a whole other thing. Maybe I'll touch base on this podcast at a later time. The best way for me to avoid alcohol is to just not go to bars. But in stand-up comedy, every show you do is almost at a bar. But alcoholism runs in my family, and we can touch on that in another episode. But I just thought, I would do something that might be too intense, but I thought I would be vulnerable and tell you why am I a clean comedian? And it had nothing to do with like, oh yeah, no, I just want more gigs. And if I'm a clean comedian, maybe I'll get more gigs. I wish it was that simple. But at the end of the day, it was unfortunately how I was raised. And what place to be more vulnerable than on my podcast? Like these podcasts only get 7 views per episode, which is still a lot in my opinion. That's 7 people who love what I have to say. And I think that's it. I think that's going to be today's episode. I was going to do a whole thing about microplastics, but I think we've gone over our usual 10-minute runtime, and I don't want to push the envelope. These podcasts are usually 10 to 14 minutes long. And me and long form content, I get tired of myself after 10 minutes, so I could only imagine the viewer. This is JR Bjornson. If you're listening to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, please leave a 5-star review of what you thought of today's episode. And if you've ever been washed out with soap to be taught a lesson, you can let me know that I'm not alone, because it was it's difficult. And that's, yeah. All right, I'm going to get going. Me and goodbyes are always awkward because I don't believe in goodbyes, and it's just really hard for me to end a sentence. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on YouTube, I should say. And for my YouTube audience, we're sticking to the podcast format for the next few weeks because I really believe in the midday show hosted by J.R. Bjornson. I imagine this podcast will go somewhere, and I just gotta, keep pushing at it. All right. Take care.